Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel ran entirely by Dr. Pepper and Autistic Thoughts. Today we're going into r/MaliciousCompliance to read stories about people who do exactly what they're told and get revenge in the best way by doing so. If you enjoy, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and watch this entire video, because that will help me the most. Now, without further ado, let's get this video started, shall we? You want a physical signature for every single requisition? I hope you brought a comfortable chair. Hey, myself, Ethan, and I work as a lead technician for a specialized industrial firm where we handle heavy machinery repairs. Now, because parts are expensive and often custom ordered, our old system was simple. I'd email my manager, "Hey, we need a 4,000 hydraulic seal," and he'd reply, "Approved." And I'd order it. Quick, efficient, and everyone was happy. Enter Kevin. Kevin is a new efficiency consultant turned director of operations. Kevin thinks emails are for lazy people and decided to curb unauthorized spending. Every single requisition, regardless of cost, now requires a physical ink-on-paper signature on a specific form, 402, hand-delivered to his office. I told Kevin this was a bad idea because we are a high-volume shop. On a busy Monday, I might order 40 different items, ranging from $5 bolts to $10,000 engines. Kevin's response was, "If it's not signed by me in person, the company isn't paying for it. No exceptions. I don't care if it's a nickel or a grand. I want to see every request that crosses your desk." I realized Kevin didn't quite grasp what every request meant. I usually batch my orders or handle the small stuff through a general shop fund, but not anymore. Monday morning comes, and instead of batching my needs into one list, I treated every single individual component as a separate requisition. Need 10 specific bolts? That's a single form. Need a bottle of degreaser? That's a single form. Need a replacement light bulb for the break room? Form. By 10 a.m. I had a stack of 64 individual forms, and I walked into Kevin's office. He was on a conference call. I waited, and when he hung up, I laid the stack down. "What is this?" "The requisitions for the morning. You said you wanted to see every request, and I need these signed so I can get the shop running." It took him 20 minutes to sign them all because he insisted on reading each one. By the time he finished, I was back with 15 more. By Tuesday, he was visibly annoyed, and by Wednesday, the fallout began. Because I was spending half my day walking back and forth to his office and waiting for him to finish meetings to get signatures, the actual repair work slowed to a crawl. 3 major clients called to ask why their machines weren't ready, and the breaking point was the emergency overnight. A local plant had a massive failure, and we needed a $12 O-ring to fix a $200,000 pump. It was around 4:45 p.m. Kevin had already headed out for a networking dinner. Now, under the old rules, I just buy it and get it reimbursed, but under Kevin's no exceptions rule, well, I couldn't. I told the client, "I'm sorry, but I don't have the authorization to purchase the part until it's physically signed off by the director," and the client was furious. They called the CEO called Kevin at his dinner, Kevin told the CEO he'd handle it in the morning, and the CEO told Kevin to get his behind back to the office now. Kevin had to drive 45 minutes back to the office in his suit just to sign a single piece of paper for a $12 part. The next morning, a company-wide memo went out. "Digital approvals via email are reinstated for all items under $5,000. Kevin doesn't look at me anymore when I walk past his office, but I still make sure to bring him a physical form for anything over $5,001, and I always make sure to wait until he's right in the middle of a very important lunch. After all, he wanted to see every request." The customer is always right about the delivery address, even when he is wrong. So I work as a courier for a local furniture and hardware supplier. Most of the time it's pretty chill, but occasionally you get that one customer who thinks being a jerk is a personality trait. Last Thursday I had a delivery for a guy who ordered a bunch of heavy outdoor decking material. The address on the invoice was for an old industrial park on the edge of town that is mostly in abandoned warehouses and empty lots. I called him when I was about 10 minutes out just to confirm where exactly he wanted the pallet dropped because the GPS was pointing to a literally gated off gravel pit. The second he picked up, he started screaming. He told me I am paid to drive, not ask stupid questions, and that the address in the system is there for a reason. I tried to explain that it doesn't look like a construction site or an old dump, but he cut me off and said he's a busy man and doesn't have time to hold my hand. He literally told me, and I quote, "Just put it exactly where the paperwork says, and stop bothering me or I will call your manager." Alright then, I'm a man of my word. I drove to the exact coordinates on the shipping manifest. It was a rusted gate in front of a completely empty dirt lot with a sign that said, "Private property, keep out." There was nobody there and no building in sight. I checked my paperwork again, and the address was 100% correct according to the system. I unloaded the entire pallet of high-end cedar decking right there in the dirt, and I leaned it against the fence and I took a photo for the delivery confirmation. About 3 hours later, my boss called me into the office. Apparently the guy meant to put it in his home address, which was on the other side of the city, but he had used his old business billing address by mistake. He was livid when he finally drove out there to check most of the wood had already been picked over by people driving by or was just sitting in the mud. He tried to claim that I should have known it was a mistake, and my boss pulled up the recorded call where the guy told me to stop asking questions and put it exactly where the paperwork said. The guy had to pay for a whole new order because he signed off on the delivery items. And he didn't say a word when he saw him at the warehouse later to pick up the new stuff himself. Perfect. And good cedar is not cheap. I doubt it'll change that jerk's attitude at all, though. We'll call it the asshole tax, though. You know what I mean? Anyway, on to the next story. You want to smell my fingers? Alright then. I have this aunt named Gian who is, well, a bit of a jerk. One of those people who always wants to stir up drama, get people in trouble, cause fights, and so on. When I was a teenager, she'd go out of her way to try to get me in trouble with my parents because she said they were too lenient. At the time of this story, I'm 14 years old and had been a regular smoker for 4 years, started early, but quit in my late 20s, and then I'm now 30 plus, tobacco free. My parents knew that I smoked, but had a don't ask, don't tell mentality about it. They'd punish me if they caught me smoking at home, even though they both smoked or outside, but otherwise pretty much ignored it. This laissez-faire attitude drove dear old Auntie Gian nuts, so she'd regularly try to out me for smoking to get me in trouble. This included demanding to smell my fingers when I came home, or had been outside and out of sight for a while. If she smelled tobacco, she'd rat me to my mom, who'd usually ground me for a day or two. One day, dear old Auntie Gian is visiting my mom, and they're sitting at the table, having a lovely little chinwag. Oh, this person's British. Cringe. I came home and went in to say hi, and immediately dear old Auntie Jean demands to smell my finger. I said, "Wait, I have to do something first," and ran upstairs before my mom finally got annoyed enough with dear old Auntie's whining to force me to let her sniff my digits. Dear old Auntie Jean yelled after me, "I better not hear the water running, or I'll know you washed the smoke stink off." Once upstairs, I went into the bathroom and proceeded to drop a nice stinky poo. Finished up as I normally would, but I didn't wash my hands, as per dear old Auntie Jean's orders. I came down in the kitchen and presented my hand for dear old Auntie to sniff. She gave my fingers a good long inhale. "Ew, that smells like shit," said dear old Auntie. I nodded thoughtfully and said, "Okay," before turning to pour myself a cup of coffee. I had my back to tell them, and there was a period of about 10 to 15 seconds of expectant silence as they waited for me to tell them what the smell was. Finally, my mom said, "Well, what was that smell?" "Oh, it was shit." Dear old Auntie immediately began gagging and rushed to the sink. For some reason, the actual smell of poop didn't make her sick, but learning it was poop did. I'm not sure if it's legitimately psychosomatic or just more drama, but she spent several minutes retching in the sink. My mom was simultaneously amused but slightly annoyed and asked me why I did that. I said, "She told me not to wash my hands, I'm just following orders." You want to sniff my fingers, dear old auntie? Enjoy a nose full of poop smell. Edit. Because it came up so much in the comments, no, I did not shit all over my hands. I don't know why someone would read, I finished up as I normally would, and that translates to, shit all over your hands. I used regular toilet paper and wiped correctly. For the people saying your fingers don't smell like poo if you wipe properly, yeah, they do. It's a very faint smell, but it's there and can be detected if you, let's say, stick your fingers directly under someone's nose. Try it next time you poop wife and sniff your fingers before washing your hands. Some people in the comments saying I was reeking of shit really need to work on their reading comprehension. For the vast majority of you who were polite and nice, thank you for your kind comments. Your aunt needs to learn how hygiene works. I think the real holy shit moment about this is that OP fixed herself a cup of coffee with shit on her fingers. Like, OP needs to learn how hygiene works. Like, sure, she got your grandma gagging, but then go wash your hands, dumbass. Anyway, I'm gonna go read the next story now. A rude customer asked and then received. I work in a small town convenience store in the Midwest many years ago. It was part of a chain based out of Ames, Iowa. One night, as it was getting close to closing, a customer who had finished pumping gas came in to pay. He immediately started saying that he wasn't paying for the last gallon of gas because the pump hadn't shut off properly. I looked out and could see maybe a 4 to 5 inch diameter of puddle of gas, maybe 4 ounces worth. I informed him all the signs informing the users they were responsible for what they pumped. He got asinine and asked me what I was going to do about it when he refused to pay the full amount. Without saying a word, I stepped out from behind the counter, walked around the pizza cook to the other employee there who watched all of this happen, and then headed for the payphone next to the door. Mr. Asinine was asking me what I thought I was doing, and I informed him I was calling 911 for attempted theft. He told me to go back to the register and he'd pay the full amount, which he did while calling me every name in the book. I didn't respond, which made him even madder. Once the transaction was complete, he pulled out a little notebook and pen out of his pocket and gave me a really snide look as he told me, I want you to give me the president's address now. Cue malicious compliance. Yes, sir, I told him. It's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. I don't know the zip code offhand, sorry. He's so mad he doesn't realize what I've given him. He's just scribbling it down as fast as he can. Once he finishes writing it down, he closes his little notepad, pockets it and his pen, and tells me that he'll be hearing from the home office once they receive his letter. As he's walking out the door, I raise my voice and say, Sir. He stops, turns around, and growls back, What? I answer as sweetly as I can, Have a nice night. I could see the vein on his forehead pop up before he turned around and stormed across the lot to his car. The pizza cook who watched the whole thing tells me, Dude, you're cold. Which part? I ask him. Telling him to have a nice night, that was cold. I had to explain to the cook the address that I gave Mr. Asinine. He had completely missed it. I've often wondered how far that guy made it before he realized what I had done. It still tickles me over 30 years later. Reminds me of the Blue Brothers when they gave their police their address as 1060 W. Addison, St. Chicago, Illinois. This should be the last story for today. Manager said to document everything, so I did. This happened at a call center job I had a few years ago. We had a manager, I'll call him Derek, who was very fond of saying, document everything. Whenever there was any kind of dispute or miscommunication, get a paper trail, he'd say. Always have a paper trail. Derek also had a habit of giving verbal instructions that contradicted what was in the written procedures. Small things mostly, like telling us to skip certain steps to handle calls faster, or to process refunds in a way that wasn't quite by the book. When you'd ask him to put it in writing, he'd wave it off and say, Just do it, I'll back you up. After the third time I got flagged in a quality review for following Derek's verbal instructions, I started documenting everything. Every time he told me something verbally, I would send him an email after saying, just to confirm, you're asking me to do X in situation Y. Let me know if I got that wrong. He always ignored those emails, never confirmed, never corrected. After about 2 months of this, there was a bigger issue where a process I followed again based on his verbal instructions caused a problem that got escalated. Derek said in the meeting that he never told me to do it that way, and I forwarded the email chain. 14 emails, all sent within minutes of our conversations. All ignored by him, timestamped with no correction ever sent. The meeting got very quiet, and Derek said the emails didn't reflect the full context. His manager, who was in the room, asked him to walk through what the full context was, and he could not really do that. I kept my job, and Derek was moved to a different role about 6 weeks later. I still send follow-up emails for everything. Pay attention, everyone. Every good OP story always ends with documentation. Always carry your receipts, so to speak. That is the end of today's video. If you all enjoyed, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and consider hyping the video. Now, I'm going to be genuinely clear here. I'm not sure how hyping the video actually helps the video. Like, I know if I get like a shit ton of hypes, it gets like put in a top videos thing for hyped videos, but like, I don't know if regular hypes put me in the algorithm or something. But there's one way to find out, so go ahead and do that if you got any left. See y'all next time. Bye bye.